Have you ever heard of the peculiar and haunting story of the ghost of the Hollywood sign? As well, did you know it used to be Hollywood Land? There's a peculiar little fact for you. Welcome to Peculiar Occurrences. I am your host, Lilith Nova.
A Peculiar Occurrence fan? Well, I've opened up a store just for you. So head on over and buy your Peculiar Occurrence gear today. Links are in the description box below. Thank you.
On September 18, 1932, a police officer took a call at the LAPD Central Station in downtown Los Angeles. An unknown caller, who did not wish to give her name over the phone, made a call saying that she had been hiking near the Hollywood sign when she came across a woman's pair of shoes, along with a jacket neatly folded and a purse with a suicide note hanging out of it. She also stated that as she looked down the hill, she thought she could make out what looked like a body. The recovered note said, "I am afraid I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain. Signed, P.E." It took more than an hour, but police finally located the body of a 23-year-old blonde woman that was later identified as Peg Entwistle, a moderately famous actress. It seems she had made her way up the steep slope of Mount Lee to the Hollywood sign, back then the Hollywood Land sign. She took off her coat, neatly folded it, sat down her purse, and removed her shoes. She then climbed the maintenance ladder on the back of the 50-foot letter H to the top, where she ultimately plunged to her death. It was determined that Peg had most likely died instantly, but this was not the last time that Peg Irwins had been seen. Not alive anyways. There has been sightings of her ghost in the area for years. Still wondering about the Hollywood landmark and melancholy. And this story goes so much deeper. Her life was somewhat peculiar, and the events surrounding her death and afterwards as well. Most places will tell you they have an idea about Peg. She was a small-town girl, somewhat of a failed actress, both on the New York Broadway stage and in Los Angeles, where she fought to get into the movie business. A lot of people believe that her one movie bombed, and that Peg was even singled out for bad reviews, and then she was cut from the RKO list of contracted actresses. There's a lot that believe that she was forced to do pornography or some sort of nude and unscenery work. And unable to take it anymore, Peg threw herself from the Hollywood sign. The sign that symbolized the city of dreams, the very dreams that had rejected her. And much of that is distorted or untrue. Millicent Lillian Peg Entwistle was born on February 5th, 1908, in Wales, while her parents happened to be traveling on a trip. Eventually, her mother left the family, and her father remarried another woman and bore two more children, boys. Both boys. In the 1920s, her family had immigrated to America, and Peg's life was hit by her first string of tragedies. She lost both of her parents. First, her stepmother to disease, and then her father to a freak car accident, a hit and run. Peg and her brothers were taken into custody by their Uncle Charles, who just happened to be a Broadway manager for actresses. Later, Peg's brothers had moved to Hollywood to pursue their acting careers. Peg, on the other hand, had decided to stay in New York and, with her uncle's help, pursue a career on Broadway. She had 28 performances of a play called The Man from Toronto on Broadway. Many of her colleagues admired her talent as well as her beauty. It's even said that she is the reason why Bette Davis became an actress. When Peg was only 19, she married an older actor named Robert Keith, but 2 years later, the divorce papers were signed, citing deception and cruelty on the part of the husband. Peg claimed that he failed to tell her he was previously married, as well that he had a 6-year-old son. That son would grow up to be actor Brian Keith. Peg was cast in a romantic comedy play that the theatrical world was buzzing about, called The Mad Hopes, co-starring Humphrey Bogart and Billy Burke, which would be the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz. Reportedly, Peg and Bogart actually dated briefly. The play sold out the theaters, and Peg got glowing reviews. RKO Studios was interested in her, had her in mind for the lead for Bill in development, but unfortunately she was beat out for the part by a young and upcoming actress named Katharine Hepburn. Peg was then cast in another big film called 13 Women. This would be her first and last time on the big screen. And her part was even severely cut down and left on the cutting room floor. She ended up getting bad reviews and getting cut from RKO's contracted actresses, but it really wasn't her fault. For one, she played such a racy role in the movie, playing a lesbian, and it was really a role before its time. As well, there was also up-and-coming studios that caused RKO to need to make some budget cuts, and it just happens that she was on the bottom of the totem pole. Many people say that she had killed herself over bad reviews, but this just is not the case, given that the movie wasn't even released till after her death. Nor did she ever pose nude or naked or scantily clad for anybody. This is a work of fiction that comes from somebody named Keith Anger for his 1965 book, Hollywood Babylon. The photo of scantily clad Peg in his book isn't even her. So why did Peg commit suicide? Well, it was Peg's Uncle Charles who told police that she was suffering from depression and severe mental anguish over the recent remarriage of her ex-husband. He had identified her after reading a story of an unknown woman found by the Hollywood sign. At this point, she had been missing for 2 days. The uncle had told the police that she tended to be moody and impulsive. Peg had told her uncle she was going to go buy a book from the drugstore and then later go and visit friends. So he told the police. 4 days later, a funeral was held for her. She was cremated, and then her ashes were sent to Glendale, Ohio, to be buried next to her father. The reason Hollywood has never forgotten Peg is because of a series of reported hauntings. Some people have insisted that they've seen a young woman wearing clothes of the old times, wandering the Hollywood Hills. The story seemed to first appear in the 1940s, after the H that Peg had thrown herself from mysteriously collapsed out of nowhere. People quickly started spreading rumors that her ghost was haunting the Hollywood sign. Let's go over a couple of the documented sightings of Peg's ghost. The Hollywood sign stands atop Mount Lee in Griffin Park, just west of Los Angeles' suburb of Glendale. Over the years, a lot of rangers have reported seeing a pretty young woman dressed in 1930s clothes wandering the paths. She is described as looking sad, and when approached, she just disappears. One day a couple was walking their dog along Beechwood Canyon Trail of the park, when suddenly the dog started acting strange, frantic, hiding behind the owners and laying down. Suddenly, they spotted a woman ahead of them along the path, and then she suddenly just vanished. John Abergast, a park ranger, claims to have seen Peg's ghost on several occasions. He claims that she only really appears at night when it's dark and foggy, and that when she disappears or she's in the area, you can smell a strong scent of gardenias, known to be her favorite scent. Now, there are two more very peculiar things to this story. The first one is that very soon after Peg's death, a letter actually arrived to her house from the Hollywood Playhouse, who wanted to cast her in a role of a woman who committed suicide. And there's no way that Peg could have known about this role before she committed suicide, since it was sent old school mail, snail mail, and not even her manager had heard word of this, aka her uncle. The second thing that was said to be peculiar about this case is that Pat's short-time husband, Robert Keith, was the father of actor Brian Keith. He was a 6-year-old son that she had divorced him over. Brian Keith's daughter committed suicide. 10 weeks after, he also took his own life. Did Pat's suicide somehow influence this? Now that's something we may never know. Now remember, if you or anyone you know is contemplating suicide, please, please, please reach out. Reach out to someone, anyone. Remember, there are people out there that do love you and care for you, and reach out and get help. I will leave a few sources down below. Ooh, heavy. That one was heavy. That one was heavy. So what do you think about Peg's ghost? Do you believe the ghost stories? Do you think she's really stuck haunting the Hollywood Hills and the Hollywood sign? Do you believe that she really killed herself? Or do you think perhaps there could be a more sinister story behind this that was never uncovered? Let me know down in the description box below. And while you're there, check out our Peculiar Occurrence merch. I happen to have some new merch in, some leggings to go with our Peculiar Squad shirt. So go down, check them out. I hope you like them. And like this video, subscribe, and please hit that bell button. You will not get my videos unless you hit that bell button, because the subscribe button is... Just please hit the bell button. Please. And until next time, keep your eyes peeled for all things peculiar. Do 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 do.
Are you listening? Damn.